All right, Nick. Nick, where'd you grow up? Where are you from originally?
I'm from Southern California, Vista in San Diego County is
Hmm.
where I grew up most of my adolescence.
What was your childhood like?
My childhood was a pretty extreme black and white mix between poverty and I would say stability and privilege. I grew up with my mom and my dad uh, in a pretty stable home up until a certain point, which my parents' addiction took the better of them, and poverty became a pretty regular thing. Moving a lot, so going from Vista to Temecula to San Marcos to San Diego every month, every year, a couple times a year. Living in cars, living in storage units, living in strangers' houses. I recall one time coming home to a house that I had woken up in and went left to school from. When I came home, walked in the door, there was an empty house with a different family. As an 8-year-old, that's kind of shocking. And it progressed from there until at some point my parent that I was with, my mother at that time, realized that her addiction was getting a little too bad that she needed to turn us over to my dad. So I would say at about the age of 13, me and one of my sisters returned to live with my father in Vista. He had a girlfriend. She had a stable job. He had a stable job. So very quickly, we went from that kind of roller coaster life of poverty and uncertainty to having the same address, the same phone number, um, and the same friends for the rest of our childhood. So I adapted pretty well to that. I was a really shy kid. I didn't talk a lot. I was always kind of a quiet observer, especially kind of going through, what I did as a child. I never really experienced a lot of heavy heart abuse, sexual or otherwise, but um, I kind of witnessed things, and I was kind of afforded the opportunity to learn from my environment. That I didn't have to endure things, I didn't have to participate in certain things. Um,
Did you have goals as a kid of
this is really funny
doing things in
thing.
your life?
Goals. I did. I knew that I wanted to quote be successful to a certain degree. Um, at that time, I think it was money, family, health, and I experienced this overwhelming feeling of uh, accomplishment and or ability. I knew that I could be a priest, an astronaut, the president, or a scientist. I knew that I could do any one of those things as a kid if I applied myself, and I would be happy. Um, but I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure what I was gonna do until I got my first job at 17, and that was in a retirement home. I got exposed to nursing and medical work, and I became a certified nurse aide at 19. I worked that type of work for about 4 or 5 years, and I really enjoyed it. And I started to pursue a career in nursing, college. Um, and growing up as a kid with a parent that was an addict and a parent that was a user, drugs were never taboo, really. My parents and my family acted like my friends sometimes more so than my parents, and so it was never an issue coming home wasted or calling the parent, dad or mom, to come pick me up if I was too drunk or I'd taken too much acid or anything. And so I practiced that way, living in indulgence. What do they say? Function with some functionality for a number of years. From I would say 14 when I began using marijuana and alcohol to escape my reality. all the way up until I think I was 20 years old when I discovered opiates in all their glory. That's when I really gave my life away to a substance. My drug of choice was heroin and other opiates. And very quickly, I went from a functioning addict who would be able to go to work, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, party and drink on the weekends, to somebody who had to use every day, all day, before work, after work, during work. I remember the first time that I tried that drug. The first time I tried it, I wasn't really interested. I didn't really know anybody who did it. It was very kind of taboo at that time. But I acquired some. It was a Sunday night, and if I could go back to that night, I would slap the shit out of myself. I would slap the shit out of myself for for picking up such a crazy habit, because I instantly I resigned myself to become this new identity, this new heroin Nick, this new heroin chic that was like desperado heroin Nick that I thought was so cool. I didn't go to work the next day or the day after that or the day after that. By Friday, my partner came home and she said, you haven't been to work all week. What's going on? And that's when I showed her, what I had been doing, how I'd been getting high, and it was that easy for me to just turn my life over, because that substance is a powerful painkiller of many types: emotional, spiritual, boredom. So I gave my life away very quickly to that realm and suffered the consequences very quickly. After 4 or 5 years, I was on the streets, dereliction, unemployable, not knowing how to be human. I didn't know, how to look people in the eye. I didn't know how to be honest. I would lie to people about, the color of my shirt, because lying had just become such a regular way of life to survive. It was always a con. I was like a con man out there. But at some point I got arrested, and that was good. That was really good for me. I was arrested in a blackout, and the blackout continued for, I would say, anywhere from 4 to 10 days in the jail system. How that's possible, I don't know. I'm lucky I didn't die, but I had ingested such a high number of benzodiazepines that I was seriously fading in and out of consciousness, in and out of a blackout for, like I said, 4 to 10 days in the jail system, where I was able to kick my habit. And at 25, I gave myself a second chance at life. I decided to go back to school and pursue working as a nurse, working in that field, helping people. I'm a pacifist. I'm not a violent person, very easygoing, and I like to see myself in a healer's role. And it's a great role for me, because I can hide from myself. I can hide from all my problems when I'm focused on yours, and I can help people heal. And I've met some amazing people doing that. And it's a journey that I'm still working on today. At say 4 years into that journey, working part-time, going to school part-time, around the time I was 30, one of my parents became critically ill. He had been chronically ill, terminally ill for a number of years, but he had turned around his habits and his lifestyles, and he was able then to gain a number of extra years of life. So that was great. But being a medical background person, I quickly jumped in to help my dad in his days in hospice. I helped him 6 days a week, 24 hours a day. And I worked with him, and I tried to keep him healthy, and I tried to keep him moving, and I tried to keep him engaged in life. But the man was suffering greatly, greatly. Um, and, he ended up losing his battle with his chronic disease. And during that process, I had definitely fallen off the horse. The sobriety horse had fallen off and relapsed on alcohol, opioids, and other substances. A couple months into the hospice care for my dad, working, living with my dad 6 days a week, 24 hours a day, dealing with that family dynamic, 9 aunts, 150 cousins, everyone wanting to help, everybody wanting to contribute, people fighting over diets and things like that. It was a nutritional diagnosis. He lacked the ability to process nutrients, and so he was always hungry, always hungry. And in the Hispanic culture that I grew up in on my dad's side, providing food to the man, to the men, to the family is like a huge part of love and connection. And so we would be fighting to give him what he wanted, even though it was killing him every day. So that was tough. But yeah, I fell off my high horse, and I moved back home because I kind of divulged that indeed I had relapsed on opiates, alcohol, and everything else. And I spent a little bit of time struggling, and I eventually got clean again. I got clean in December 7th, 2019, which was 3 days before my dad's birthday, December 10th. And I got to spend the last of his days with him, clean and sober. And he passed away in January, which I stayed sober through. Yeah, so I did that with the connection of loved ones and friends. But that kind of leads me up to today. A couple years later, post-pandemic, I've kind of been in and out of sobriety, recovery, kind of doing very well and excelling, like any addict who puts all that effort from my addiction into productivity, going to school, working a job, building a relationship, family, career. And I'm going kind of back and forth, at this point in time. I came down here to LA. I'm kind of on this around the United States Skid Row Bottoms tour. I visited quite a few cities this year and last year, and I'm gravitating towards some very dubious areas. And there's some really amazing people. There's some really fucking scary people, and there's just some really cool sights. So made my way to LA. I've never lived here. I always said that San Diego had all the best parts of LA and none of the bad parts, but I don't really think that can hold its mud anymore. I mean, I think I'd like to relocate here and check it out a little bit more. But
What is it about? Because you clearly understand how being clean and living a productive life is probably a good thing for you, yet you keep getting pulled back. What do you think is the attraction?
Definitely the lack of responsibility. And at this point, I'm living in a car that hasn't been financed, it's leased, and the lien holder hasn't been paid in 6 weeks. So that's a real fucking lack of responsibility there. And that's very intoxicating and very alluring. Sounds insane, and it is. But there's a real sense of freedom and a real sense of and like an eternal childhood that maybe I'm longing for now because I wanted to grow up so fast when I was younger. But I don't doubt that I'll find my way back. I'm again like a healer type, a peaceful person, and my disease always takes me to a point where my next question is, do I pick up a gun or do I check into rehab? And I've checked into rehab every time.
How old are you?
32.
32.
Yeah.
No kids?
No kids. No, I don't have any kids. I have a lot of dogs. Those are my kids. And I think that's definitely played a huge fucking role in my journey, because I would like to think if I had kids that, oh, hey, I would pull back and tighten up like my dad did. My mom was definitely an addict. Definitely needed some heavy intervention to recover her life. My father, not so much. A textbook addict or alcoholic, was able to pull back and stop partying when he had kids, when the time came to be a family man, a responsible man. So I don't know how I would fit in that role. I think I've been a little bit too selfish over the years when it comes to stepping into that role. I will say though, when he passed away, I began dating somebody who had a kid, and very quickly, very ironically, I went from grieving a father who had just died to being a father figure in a relationship with a very damaged person who needed a lot of recovery themselves, and that was quite a role switch for me, almost like a high itself.
And where do you see your life going now? Your next step is losing the car potentially.
Oh yeah.
And then being homeless, and you're attracted to LA, which probably would take you to Skid Row.
Yeah, that's not going to be good for me. I've got some pretty serious business that I've got to attend to in Northern California coming up here. Some property business that needs to be taken care of before it turns into legal problems. So I will be, even though I'm spending a lot of time here in LA, I am supposed to be heading towards Northern California to take care of some stuff. So at that point, God, it's going to be like a real rude awakening. There's going to be a lot of responsibility, a lot of stepping up to the plate, calling people, making decisions, tough decisions, showing up and just fucking showing up, participating, and
being a grown-up.
Yeah, being a grown-up, so hey, that might be a good stepping stone to transition into just a little detox or something. I don't know.
Do you think that having the parents that you did maybe somehow kept you from maturing as a normal child would, and you're kind of still being a child at 32?
Well, if they were here right now, they could kind of look at me and nod or wink. They would probably agree with that statement based off of my behavior. But
it's easy to judge an addict and say, "Oh, you're just screwing up." And
yeah.
I understand that addiction is much more complicated than that. But as an outsider, I look at like, oh my God, you just need to man up and take some responsibility and do the right thing. And I know it's not as simple as that.
Yeah, no, definitely not. They say it's easier to get sober than it is to stay sober. And
sure. That's a good one. Yeah, that's a good one.
I think that I was allotted enough freedom then to find out really what I could handle, like friendship-wise, personal relationships, sex, drugs, alcohol, finances, money. They allotted me enough freedom and room to kind of go out and kind of, with their supervision, roughly figure out like what was gonna work or what was a good way for me. And to be honest with you, I haven't figured shit out yet. You know, or if I do, it gets mundane and boring very fast, and I don't know what the self-sabotage element is to it, but yeah, I can say that I'm very, very lucky to have the family that I do, that surrounds me, that still talks to me, an unbelievable amount of love and forgiveness for this addict who, on a regular basis, shows up to fucking fuck shit up, screw people over, and you know, nothing but love, and with that, you know, I'm also learning and growing in my personal relationships. One in particular, with my fiance, who a very interesting dynamic, meeting in sobriety, meeting in rehab, you know, spending a number of years together sober, and walking that walk, and now here at the row, Skid Row, walking the walk here as well. So we're learning a lot about each other, we're growing a lot, and we're definitely having our moments of, well, it's obvious that you started using drugs when you were 14, and it's obvious that you started using drugs when you were 16, because here we are playing the same mind games that we would be playing at that time, at that age. But a partnership, nonetheless, a great partnership that I am very, very dear. I hold it very, very dear, and so together, I know that we're going to kind of push through this and be able to laugh. You know, one day, hopefully, we wake up on the same page, and that's where we decide to take a different step in another direction, a different direction that's going to lead us away from the vicious cycle that is addiction, very vicious cycle, and you know, help both of us, creative, loving individuals, give back to humanity, to help people around us, strangers, family, friends, help excuse me, them kind of move forward as well, you know, in whatever way we can. I don't know. I talk about, you know, nursing and healthcare and being a healer and a giver, but I know that there's a lot of ego in that. There's a lot of I forgot what the word is. You know, there's a lot of flair and again, just a lot of ego and a lot of image in that role as Nick, a nurse, Nick, a healer. You know, and I've worked in jobs that afforded me great finance and great monetary gains and options. However, at the end of the day, if I feel like my soul is being sucked out of me and I'm doing nothing but push paper or something like that, or push people in wheelchairs, then I'm really not going to be happy. And so I think finding the happy medium for me is going to take a little bit more than just having a great paying nursing job. You know, it's really going to be about me in touch with what's going on in here, creating something beautiful every day, whether it's a memory or a piece of art or a piece of poetry. You know, something that's going to be bursting with life, I guess I could say.
All right, Nick. Well, thank you so much for
Yeah. Thank you for letting me have this opportunity.
Yeah. I wish you and your fiance the best of luck.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much.